Konnichiwa, minabuko wa Jeremy desu. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. It is Monday, May the 9th, and thus another day for Sailor Moon Crystal. And so we're now into the 7th book, the one with Sailor Uranus on it, and it is of course Act 31, Infinity 5, Sailor Pluto, Setsuna Meioh, or Setsuna Meioh, Sailor Pluto, however you want to call it. It's about Sailor Pluto, minusculely. More about plants and stuff, but we'll get to that. Overall, this episode was okay. It started, like, the action was fairly decent through most of it until the action scene, like the actual battle scene. At that point, I think it kind of was a little bit rushed. Like, they were trying to fit as much as they possibly could into the episode there, where they could have maybe cut other things than what they just cut originally with it. But that's okay. This chapter pretty much follows almost exactly. Again, very few changes. The one thing that I noticed right off the bat, so it starts off with Setsuna sitting in her laboratory with the professor, and they're going over how the space is warping and stuff around the Mugen area, and so Setsuna's like, the airspace is warped, and the professor's like, well, I see something's weird, but I don't know why you'd say it was warped, and she's like, yeah, I wonder why I would do that. So we get the impression that Setsuna has no memory of what's been going on, and she basically, I guess, was just reborn, like before. So it's kind of complicated and convoluted in a good way, I guess, and we'll figure this out later on, of course. So Motoki and Reika come in to ask if they want to go to dinner, and Setsuna's like, well, I already have. And the first thing I noticed is that Motoki's height ratio is actually good compared to what it was in the first and second seasons of Sailor Moon Crystal, where he had like this really big torso and tiny legs. Now he's really tall, I think, like he's always supposed to be, so it works out really well. And they showed some fun interaction between him and Reika, whereas in the last episode he wasn't really featured in it much. But now they brought him back into it, I guess, to make the scene work. So him and Reika are on the train, and they're talking about the Mugenzu district, and they want to go eat there, but Reika's like, no, it looks really dark and creepy and rainy, and he's like, you're freaking out over nothing, blah, blah, blah. So then it switches over to Professor Tomoe trying to do his research and stuff, turning diamonds or animals into diamonds and stuff, and of course it doesn't work properly, and so Kaori Knight tells him that it's time for them to go and meet the master again, which is Pharaoh 90, so they're talking to him and giving a progress report, basically kind of like a manager sort of thing would do. What I find really interesting is the talk, or is how they discuss things. How they don't see what they're doing as evil, but they sense that there's an evil that's going to awaken in amongst the Senshi. So they're basically calling out what will eventually happen with Hotaru. They don't know that Sailor Saturn's inside of her, which they call the destruction evil. So they sense it's there, but they don't know why it's there. And of course they're trying to use Hotaru to house the body of Mistress Nine eventually. So there's Hotaru, poor girl, has like multiple personalities inside of her. But anyway, so Kaori Knight apologizes for everything, and the professor's like, oh, he's in good spirits since the Guardian showed up, and then Kaori Knight's all pissed off. Now in the manga, she's like, how dare he say that? He doesn't realize what I've gone through, and blah, blah, blah. And then Telu, or Telulu, or however you want to say her name, because in the original anime they called her Telulu. They kind of say Telulu here. The subtitles say Telu. So it's whatever her name is, just like Eugil, Eudial, whatever. All the witches have weird names. She appears out of nowhere and talks to Kaori Knight, whereas in the anime, Kaori Knight kind of taps her stick on the fountain, and boom, there she is. So she's like, just leave it to me, and I have these flowers and stuff that I'll use, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yes, and then there's the evil feeling or the destruction surrounding somewhere in the Senshi group, and then the radiance of Sailor Moon is how Pharaoh 90 talks about this stuff. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but every time they go over to Chibiusa, she has this weird little, like, kind of half laugh, like how did I write it down? Ooh-hee, ooh-hee, like, ooh-hee, or something like that. It's very odd. So, anyway, they switch over to Chibiusa, and she's in school. And they're talking about these the clay things and how they were great on display for a week, but they should give them to someone special. So Chibiusa is completely ignorant to the fact that Kyosuke likes her. Everybody else can see it, obviously. She's like, oh, okay, a friend. Oh, maybe I should give it to Hotaru. Talking about the chalice, of course, or the Holy Grail. And so she's going to go and do just that. And it switches over to Hotaru and how she's walking along in Mugen Academy, and there's some girls up on the upper level that are watching her and kind of talking about her, and then all of a sudden she falls down, drops all of her stuff because she has an attack, and these other two girls come up to her and they step on her pencil case, and they're being really rude and snotty to her, and then she just breaks it in her hand and walks off, and they're like, oh, that's kind of creepy. What the hell's going on? So then it switches over to Usagi at school, and she's looking out and at the rain coming down, and she's all sad because she wants Haruka and Michiru to work with them, and she wants to talk to them because they're all Sailor Senshi. Makoto and Ami are like, well, it'll work out, it's okay, and then they all have to go to their clubs and stuff, and they had some really cute, funny infusions of humor again with Usagi, and they're talking about her classes and stuff, or this, what do they call it, supplementary class that she has to go to as well. So she goes off to do that. Switches over to Makoto in the botanical garden, and they're talking about Telun with this random guy that's there, and he asks her what her favorite flower is. She says the Sasanqua? Something like I'm terrible at pronunciating. In the manga, it's Sasanqua Camilla, but she doesn't say Camilla in this one. And it reminds her of her senpai. When they show him, he kind of looks a little bit like Mamoru. I think that seems to be Naoko Takuchi's ideal-looking guy, I suppose. So, anyway, Kaito A's kind of looked like him for Sailor V. Mamoru himself is Mamoru. The sensei, which we find out later, his name is Nichogi Senpai. In the manga, they do mention that, but they never did in the original. So this random guy that's with her in the botanical gardens is talking about the Telun, and so she's like, okay, that's interesting. So they go back to the arcade, and the girls are all talking around the command center about what's going on, and they see a picture of Professor Tomoe and his daughter Hotaru, and Usagi realizes, she's like, oh my god, that's the Hotaru that we saw originally, and is Chibiusa's friend. So they're walking along, and they go by a flower shop, and Makoto sees that there's the Telun there, and she wants to get it because it doesn't need watering and all this, and then she's walking behind the others with Minako, and Minako's like, oh, you love flowers and stuff, and she's like, yeah, and this one was made by Ruru Terudu, or Tarun, or whatever. So Usagi gets home, Chibiusa is there too, but she's just about to leave to go to Hotaru's, and Usagi's like, oh my god, I'm going to go with you, because, well, hey, it's raining, but really she wants to go and investigate the place too. So they show up at the laboratory, and they kind of just walk in because there's no, intercom or anything like that. And Kaori Knight sees them, and she tells them they're trespassing, but Hotaru stops her. She's like, no, they're my guests. And there's still that kind of anger or oddness between Hotaru and Kaori Knight and stuff. So they're sitting there, and Chibiusa offers Hotaru the gift, but Hotaru listens to the conversation that Chibiusa is having with Usagi, and Usagi says, well, you should give this to Mamoru, and she's like, well, no, because then it wouldn't be fair to you, which is actually, I think it stuns Usagi. She's like, oh my gosh, she actually thinks of me, holy crap. And then Hotaru's like, you should maybe give this to your loved ones, they helped you make this, I really appreciate the gesture, Chibiusa, that's really nice. And then it goes to commercial. And then Usagi has to use the bathroom when they come back, so she goes to do so, and then she's looking out the window, and she sees that there's the Mugen Academy. And meanwhile, Chibiusa and Hotaru are talking, and then Hotaru has another attack, and she reaches for Chibiusa's brooch and feels better. And then Chibiusa happens to let it slip that it's the legendary silver crystal, which Kaori Knight overhears because she's being douchey, and she's sitting there and listening into their conversation because, well, she's evil, so I guess that makes sense. Not evil in her eyes. Don't forget that. Not evil in her eyes. But anyways, so this weird voice comes out of Hotaru, and she's like, oh my god, what the hell's going on? What was that? So Usagi's looking around, kind of snooping, and she runs into Professor Tomo, and he touches her shoulder, and she realizes, oh my god, that's a really cold touch. Doesn't even feel a human or anything like that. Like, what the heck is going on? So she goes back, and the professor tells Hotaru that it's time that she has her physical done. So Usagi and Chibiusa excuse themselves, and they leave. And as they're walking along, Chibiusa spots what she seems to think is Setsuna. And then this bus goes by and she disappears, and she's like, no, there's no way that she could possibly be here. So then it switches over to Makoto's house, and Minako comes to visit her, and they're talking about all the plants that she has, but the plants aren't doing so well. But she's got this new terun, whatever you call it. And both the girls feel tired, so Makoto has a dream about her senpai. But Minako kind of snaps out of it, and she's like, hey, look around, everything's dying. And then Makoto realizes that it's the blossoms of the terun, and if it actually blooms out, then something bad was going to happen, so she cut it with a knife. And at that point, they realize that this thing is evil. So, Chibiusa and Usagi are at the Mugenzu station. They see a map of how everything is laid out. There's the Tenno-zu, the Kaio-zu, and the Meioh-zu, and of course realizes that it's the same last names as Haruka and Michiru. And of course, Setsuna's last name is Meioh. So they see, the girls. The girls tell them that they have to go to the botanical gardens because it's evil. And they see Haruka and Michiru, and Haruka is actually dressed up as a girl, kind of like the second time I think that we've seen. So Usagi chases after them to tell them what's going on, and then they run off. And then she goes outside of Haruka's door and talks to her, but Haruka's listening from the other side, but doesn't want to say anything, and it's just really awkward. And then afterwards, they realize that they have to go and deal with this. So they go to the botanical gardens. They see that there's people that are hurt and basically lost their energy. And now this is where all hell breaks loose. Everything goes mega quickly. It's the first time I think that we see a full transformation of all of the Senshi in one, kind of like they used to do to save time in the older series. Where they all transform, but you see only little clips of each one, and then they finish off, and then Sailor Moon does her thing, and blah, blah, blah. And, because I don't think they had that in the original the first and second seasons of Sailor Moon Crystal. I don't recall it. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen them. But at least in this third season, so they did it really quick. And then, so they're fighting. Now, in the manga, we only see, okay, first of all, I should finish this off. Telu introduces herself, and she attacks them. And so we see Mars Snake Fire, Wink Chainsword, and Aqua Mirage. They do nothing. Telu then attacks with Mandragora Buster, which is the first time we actually see one of the witches attack, I think. And then Jupiter uses Coconut Cyclone, and Moon uses Moon Spiral Heart Attack, which actually does nothing for once. So Chibiusa prays and wants to get an attack, and she gets her Pink Moon, or the Pink Moon Heart Attack stick, and she uses it, but it does nothing as well, although it seems to be a better attack than in the original series, which it was really just used as comedic effect in that original series. But it does seem really funny that they do this like big sequence with Luna P giving her this, and then it's like, boom, here you go, and it does nothing. So in the meantime, Setsuna had the Telun, and she is like feeling like she's dying because she's losing her energy, and Michiru and Haruka feel this too, that something is going on. One of their own, meaning that the outer Senshi, is in trouble, and all of a sudden Setsuna awakens. So she was reborn again after dying in, now some think it's dying from when she, in the R series, or just she hasn't awoken in this time period yet, like the others have, and everybody feels it. Tuxedo Command, all that stuff. So I guess she actually awakens before they attack. Anyway, Telu turns into this weird plant demon and attacks them, and she's going after Chibiusa, but then all of a sudden we have Sailor Pluto appear with Dead Scream, which was not done as well as the original series. It was kind of anticlimactic, I think, but it was enough to destroy Terudu, cementing the fact that Sailor Pluto is definitely stronger than pretty much all the rest of the Senshi, and Chibiusa's like, oh my god, that's Sailor Pluto, and that's where they end it quite abruptly, which is very strange to me that it was that abrupt. So, very, very fast in terms of the action sequence. It was nice to see all the Senshi attacking, and I'm pretty sure that they did do that specifically to show that Sailor Pluto is really powerful. I mean, we kind of already knew that because of our arc, the Dark Moon arc. But things are definitely coming along. The next one, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto actually introduce themselves properly, and then we get to see Princess Serenity, and all this stuff will be happening where they face off against Cyprine and Pidlal, and that will be getting closer towards the end of the Dark Moon, or the Deathbusters Infinity arc. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I wanted to do it a little bit quicker today because I've been really, really long with my videos before, but let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.